Thank you, Joy. I just want to encourage anybody who has questions to go ahead and type them into the questions box, and we'll get to them near the end of the presentation. At Risk was developed in partnership with MHA of New York City, which administers the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So they provided subject matter experts along with other subject matter experts, including the heads of counseling centers, psychologists, and psychiatrists. It was recently added to the SPRC Best Practices Registry, and thus far we have over 30 universities adopted the product, and because of the interest that has been generated, as Joy mentioned, there is a peer-to-peer for university students that is being developed, as well as one for high school students and high school teachers. The one for high school teachers is driven by a large part of the interest of the part of state suicide prevention coordinators. And more specifically, there was a one that zooms in on high school teachers of Native American youth to address the particular needs of that population. The learning objectives from at-risk include or integrate 25 different best practices that enable the learner to recognize common signs of distress in the classroom, how to approach students once they feel concerned enough about them, and then how to make an effective referral to the counseling center, and certainly, last but not least, where is the counseling center located, and what are some of the policies colleges would like to include within the simulation specific to their students or their faculty. The learning experience itself, it's pretty neat. You're, as a faculty member or staff, are placed in a virtual environment, and you play the role of a Professor Hampton who's concerned about a number of his students in that classroom. You get sensitized what to look for in terms of students' behavior, their attitudes, and so on, by overviewing 5 of the virtual students' profiles. And if you feel that there's a need to talk with a student, you can actually engage them in a simulated conversation. And this is where the practice component comes in, which gives you a really high-end role play to gain the confidence that one would want to have to actually do it in real life. And lastly, you complete the game by identifying all the students who are at risk and successfully referring them to the counseling center. So here's Professor Hampton's virtual classroom. The students that he can view their profiles of have a diamond over their head. And what Professor Hampton doesn't know is that one of these students is depressed with suicide ideation, one has an anxiety disorder, and one has demonstrated symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia. Now, we chose these disorders because the symptomatology overlaps with a lot of different disorders, so hopefully you're sensitizing the faculty member to the extent where they're really being able to broaden or have a wide catchment in terms of their sensitivity to a distressed student. The next slide introduces you to the student's profile. Here you're seeing the academic performance of Alberto, who is depressed. That you see that he has very poor participation. His attendance is erratic. His grades aren't very good. He's not turning in assignments. These are all type of indicators showing the professor that something may be going on behind the background. The next slide describes behaviors of Alberto, falling asleep in class, not being able to focus, to pay attention, and lastly, as we know, physical appearance can be an indicator. So these 3 types of profiles, academics, behavior, and appearance, sensitize the faculty member what to look for. You're seeing static slides here. In the actual simulation, they are animated and there's audio attached to them. If you feel the problem is severe enough, you can bring the student into your office, in which case Professor Hampton invited Alberto to join him to talk with him here. The way you communicate is through these various strategies and tactics. The computer certainly cannot tell you what to say, nor should it, but it can give you the right strategies to take. And these strategies for example, what's highlighted here under grades, you should talk about worried about grades, or he's going to fail the class if he doesn't make big changes. Now, what's important here is that you integrate pitfalls within these tactics, because you want to be able to capture a variety of different personalities from different faculty who will make mistakes. So, for example, if the faculty member, as might be suggested in this last tactic, is telling him he's going to fail his class unless he starts straightening up and getting his assignments in and so on, if he's too judgmental, if he's too critical, Alberto, being that he possesses emotional intelligence and memory, is going to react like a real student and perhaps become defensive, become aggressive, depending on what you say, and shut down, and you will have lost an opportunity to make an important referral. Now, in making a mistake of choosing a wrong tactic or falling into a pitfall, you'll get a virtual coach that comes down and lets you know what you did wrong, offers productive criticism so you can engage in the conversation through learning. In fact, if you make a critical mistake, you notice that you have an undo selection here, where in this case the faculty member, his mistake was that he diagnosed Alberto. He told him that he was depressed, and we know faculty members are not supposed to diagnose. So you can either undo it and go back to the previous opportunity to make another tactic decision and proceed forward. And if you make a mistake for a third time, being it's based on gaming technology, you will have to start the entire conversation over again. Now, what's kind of really neat about this last part is once you successfully refer Alberto to the counseling center and you get him to go over there, Professor Hanson comes back and summarizes the entire experience to provide you, what you did right, to give you an overall synopsis of what occurred and what were the things that you picked on that were correct. And as you go through the simulation, you will in fact have a nice conclusion to kind of put the experience in its proper perspective, which really nicely helps you to bring it into real life circumstances. Here you have a slide that looks at a the preliminary results of an empirical study that's being done at 4 colleges here in the Northeast that will be submitted for peer review in April of this year. We're about a quarter of a way of having the data collected, and just on that small sample size, some pretty interesting things have turned out to be significant. And one is that faculty recognition that they're responsible for talking to students, which we know needs to happen before you can be an effective gatekeeper. And also those in the experimental group or those who took the at-risk had an increased likelihood to approach the student. And lastly, approaching significance, it's not there yet. Faculty reported an increased ability to effectively manage the communication with students and choose those correct tactics or make those decisions that made them effective in identifying the student and making a sensitive referral. Here are the results of a national study run at 72 different universities, and you can see by the first pie diagram that the ages were quite well dispersed, ranging from faculty and staff that were 25 to 35 all the way up to 65. We see that, again, the years of experience were quite spread out, ranging from 10 years and more all the way down to just being there, within the first 2 years, junior faculty member. And last, it's nice to see that the jobs that people were taking were quite diverse, with most of them being full-time faculty, but you see a large number of part-time faculty, and even a quarter of the sample, almost a quarter, were full-time staff. Moving on to the next slide, we see that the at-risk training did change people's perceptions, that 83% reported an increased awareness in identifying and referring students as part of their role. That kind of goes along with the empirical data that's been analyzed so far. That 86% reported an increase in the likelihood that they will approach and actually refer students if necessary, and 93% were easily convinced to take the training. In our next slide, we see that 89% reported that they were better prepared to identify and approach and refer students, and as a result of the at-risk training, 83% reported that they felt more confident in their ability to help a suicidal student. And last but not least, you want to make sure that the use of avatars, a simulated environment, is an effective training modality. And we see overwhelmingly that 97% reported that the simulated conversations were realistic, that they represented conversations that they would really have with students or think they would have. And it's nice to see that 96% would recommend the at-risk to their colleagues. So you can download a complete report, because this is only a couple of dozens and dozens of results from the survey, at the address below here. And again, we're going to send these PowerPoints to you so you can get them.
Hello, everyone. This is Ron from Kognito. I want to add, Glenn went through a presentation here about the at-risk product, but there is nothing better than actually experiencing it, being that this is a highly interactive simulation. And you are seeing a link here on the screen. We posted a demo version that allows you to engage in 1 out of the 5 simulated conversations. So you can simply go to that link and click on the demo button, and you'll be able to experience this. I also wanted to add that we are sort of continuing to run the national study that we have done at 72 universities. So if any one of you is interested in a trial as well as the same type of assessment, there is also a 30-day free trial that you can sign up for. You can have up to 15 of your faculty or staff members complete the entire simulation, which is about 45 minutes long. And at the end of it, they'll have an online survey similar to the one we have used in the national study. And the results will be provided to you so you can really learn exactly what your specific faculty and staff think about this and not just rely on national results. And the next slide is a little bit about what Joy mentioned earlier, which we're very excited about, and that is an upcoming version of this faculty training that is aimed at university students. As research has shown, a lot of students who are showing signs of depression and thoughts of suicide do approach their peers first, which is important, therefore, to engage that population in understanding how they can assist those at-risk students. So we are partnering with a number of organizations, including Penn State Altoona, to develop this product, which will be ready in May of 2010 of this year. A lot of the schools we have spoken with are thinking of integrating it into their student orientation and actually even make it mandatory, which makes a lot of sense. If you think about alcohol prevention and how that became mandatory, no reason why gatekeeper training for students should not. One thing that if you're interested in this product that you can do is we are sort of looking for schools who will be interested in participating in the pilot of this in May to June of this year. This is a link on the screen where you can go, just put in your name, email, school name, and that will allow you to then participate in the pilot where you can have about 30 of your students complete this student version, and you can get results and see if this is something of interest to you.